Gamer Type Originals.
It's time for something brief. If a gaggle of teenagers encountering supernatural weirdness sounds enticing, then Oxenfree is the adventure game for you. Here, you play the teal-haired Alex on your way to an abandoned island for an overnight beach party with friends old and new. Just as it feels you're playing an interactive version of a TV teen drama, you wander into a cave, trigger a strange portal with your portable radio, and things start to get weird. The fabric of time isn't right on this island, and Alex needs to navigate through the island's various temporal loops and tears to reverse an incredible amount of damage. Oxenfree plays like a traditional adventure game with minimal controls. The keyboard moves you around the game's 2.5D-ish environments with corners that are ripe for getting stuck on, but you'll need to keep your other hand free to mouse through the game's speech bubble dialogue system, which I'll talk about in a second. You have no inventory except the knowledge of events that transpire before you, but you do utilize that portable radio to solve the game's puzzles, which, like The Witness, come in a single format that's tweaked over the course of the game. It's an interesting twist, having to fine and tune into a specific frequency to cause stuff to happen, but the radio's hints can get lost in the game's audio mix, and considering the variety of noise that exists across the game's radio spectrum, it can be difficult to draw a beat on the specific frequency you need to progress. So let's talk about that dialogue system, which is, mechanically, Oxenfree's highlight. In traditional adventure games, conversations go back and forth, turn by turn. Someone will say something to you, and you'll respond to them with a myriad of responses that are used to provide background information or clue you in on puzzles and so on. Oxenfree's dialogue system, however, occurs in real time and is designed to mimic the flow of real conversations. As others speak, dialogue options will appear above Alex and fade out as they become irrelevant or the conversation is about to pivot. These choices will allow you to build or diminish relationships with the other characters over the course of the game, and it's a really interesting system that, well, mostly works. If you've ever been on the journalist beat interviewing people, you know that a prime skill to master is the ability to not only process what your guest is saying, but to formulate the next question based on their response as they're giving it. It's an interesting bit of multitasking that takes a little getting used to, so using it in a game is an interesting proposition. Conversations in Oxenfree, regardless of the subject, sound familiar and natural, but having to ponder dialogue choices before they fade away can be a hassle, especially since you can't conjure the topic again later like you would in a normal conversation or in a traditional adventure game. While walking around, you need to be ready to understand and click on dialogue choices, or the game will simply move the conversation forward without you. I'm tempted to New Game Plus this thing and abstain from talking as much as possible just to see what ultimately happens. Oxenfree's presentation is pretty incredible. The music and sound design are phenomenal, from the dainties you hear around the haunted levels, to the clever use of vintage audio clips to build the tone, to the phantom radio spectrum. The music works supremely well to produce a sense of menace. The voice acting works, but the voice direction rarely prods any sense of danger like it does in the stellar work of fellow adventure game Firewatch, and this deflates the supernatural drama. The only visual miss may be the flat-looking character models marching on top of the game's wonderful painterly backgrounds. Without spoiling anything, the game's weakest point may be its villain. The game works super well to produce a sense of dread, but this is a story about Alex and a relationship she has with her friends, set to incredible special effects and a hearty dab of melodrama, for better and worse. The supernatural villainy that ties this whole thing together winds up being a B story that never quite reaches its apex in the time we have with the game. Still, Oxenfree is a solid adventure game for anyone who enjoys the genre. It's well produced with an interesting premise, even if the story doesn't quite hit its potential. Plus, at a few short hours in length, it's even worthy of an extra playthrough just to see how you can mold a narrative, like a good choose-your-own-adventure book.